Okay, so today we are talking about the library of functions, which is a set of functions that you guys really need to know and basically commit to memory. So the objective is to know the properties of all the functions in the library of functions. And the properties are to know their domain and range, know the absolute maximum and minimum, find their intercepts and their increasing slash decreasing interval. Okay, so in the library, you are expected to know these. Okay, so first is the constant function, then the identity function, then the x squared, x cubed, and then square root of x, cube root of x, an absolute value, and then 1 over x and 1 over x squared. These are the functions where you want to be able to just visualize the graph and how it looks as soon as you see it. Okay, so I want to go over two of them with you, and then in your homework, you're going to do the rest by yourself. Okay, so I'm going to do the constant function, which is f of x equals b, where b is a number. There is no x. Okay, so for example, I have f of x is equal to 5, and when I have that, I want to put it into my table of values, right? X and y, and no matter what x I put in, my y is always going to be 5. So my function is, it gives me a line across like so. Okay, so I'm going to look at the domain and range. The domain is just going to be all of the x's, right? So x such that x is part of the real numbers. And the range, there's only one point in y, right? Y is, there's only one point. So the range is that y such that y is equal to 5. Okay, and the absolute max, there's no max in this graph. Okay, so um, just maybe if you are still confused on what absolute max and absolute min is, it is the absolute max is the highest point, the highest y value in your graph, and absolute minimum is the lowest point in your graph. And in this case, the graph just goes across, so there's no max, there's no min, right? Um, so increasing interval, it's not increasing at all, just staying flat. And decreasing interval, there is none. Now, all of these, I can go into detail and give you the mathematical definition of these terms, but I think at this point we don't need to know that. Okay, we don't need to go in such detail. Just know max is the highest point, minimum is the lowest point, and increasing interval is when you go from left to right. The graph is increasing. So f of x is getting bigger and bigger as you go from left to right. Or decreasing is when f of x is getting lower and lower. And in this case, there is none of those things. Okay, the next one is the absolute. Well, actually, I have to do the intercepts. Intercepts is going to be 0, 5. That's your y-intercept. There is no x-intercept. Okay, now absolute value function. Here, I have f of x is equal to absolute value of x. And in my table, I have just that y is always going to be a positive value no matter what x is, right? X can be positive or negative, but y is going to be positive of the same value. So I graph that, and it looks like that. Okay, and the domain is going to be all of the x's, right? And the range is going to be from 0 and up. So y is such that y is larger than or equal to 0. And the absolute max, there is no max, right? It keeps going up, so you can't have a max. But there is a minimum. The minimum is at y equal to 0 when x is equal to 0. Okay, so absolute min is 0. And then increasing interval is from 0 to positive infinity. So you look on the right side here is increasing, right? So you start from 0 and you keep going forever to positive infinity. It's increasing. And remember, the interval for your increasing and decreasing, it is an open interval. Okay, it does not have an endpoint. You go closer to 0, but it does not touch 0. Okay, at 0 is not increasing, it's not decreasing. So you go up to right right next to 0, but you don't get there. And decreasing interval, you guys can probably get the point now. It's over here. It's going down, see? So decreasing. So my interval is from negative infinity to 0. and my intercept is going to be at 0, 0. Okay, so based on this, I think you guys can go ahead and do the homework.